Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome into the box seats here on latenightsportsradio.com with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan. I got a little distracted there for a second. I forgot that I was going to lead in. I caught up with the music there. But Alex, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a nice night on the ice. I had 4 plays in hockey today, won 3 of them. Just now, the final game ended with the Sharks beating Tampa Bay. So enjoying some hockey, waiting for the NBA to start back up. It was an interesting all-star game, a lot of points scored, really fun dunk contest and stuff. So it's been some good stuff to watch this weekend. How have you been doing, Bob?
I've been doing well. I watched the all-star game and the, all-star weekend. Obviously, Saturday night's it's the best lead up to an all-star game in sports. Hockey has a little bit of an argument, but, I think NBA needs to add one more thing, whether it be like an NBA Jam type of competition, a 2-on-2, or 3-on-3, something like that. But overall, that's the great thing. And then the All-Star Game, people who complain about it, it's like they don't know what's coming, and it's the same thing every year.
Right.
If you expect them to start playing defense, they're not going to. And, even if the complaint a lot about it is it's all transition. It's all jacking up threes, which is true. But even if you go back and watch like 80s and 90s, there's a lot of transition. There's a lot of threes. And, maybe one or two guys gets put on his back. They play hard. But, there's not a lot of defense in those games either. People really have selective memory as far as what goes on in, all-star games, as far as what happened in the 80s and 90s versus what's happening right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. People take this way too seriously, in my opinion. We're talking about guys that are playing 82 games in a season, and basketball has a more compact schedule than hockey. So, teams, go through the season playing 3 games in 4 nights, 4 games in 5 nights. These guys are tired, all right? A lot of these teams are fatigued. Whether they're doing well or not, it's just the wear and tear of an average season. So, this is more of a fun thing. It's an honor, for these guys to be named the top players in their league by their peers and by the fans. But it's a show. This is not supposed to be a serious game. No one's going out there, putting their body on the line for a meaningless, exhibition game when they have a rest of season to, get ready for. Especially you look at now, with the trade deadline coming up, in a couple of days, and we're hearing some big names possibly being moved, these guys aren't going to risk getting hurt, to jeopardize their team or possibly joining another team or what have you. So, people really need to kind of lay off of the talk of, wow, there's all-star games, they don't mean anything. No, they don't, and like I said, it's not supposed to be a serious, competition. It's supposed to be a bit of a break for the players and a treat for the fans. It's something different than just your average every night game.
Well, and yeah, it's a little, and it's funny, like the number. Obviously, those teams were going for trying to score 200 points, and who can blame them? It's turned into a video game, which is fine. That's what. If the fans really wanted to, you think? If the fans really wanted to see defense, that the NBA would say, no, we don't want, the NBA is giving the fans what it's begged for years, a lot more offense. Fans can whine and complain all they want about, the 90s and 80s were so much better with all this physicality. There's a lot of teams like, the Suns or the Sonics back in those days that were fun to watch, but they couldn't get past a Lakers or or look at the Jazz. They were fun to watch, and they couldn't get past the Lakers or, the Mavericks. They were fun to watch. They couldn't get past physical teams, and fans didn't want to see this physical, slugging each other back and forth 70 to 68 games. Like, you watch ESPN Classic, I love watching a Knicks versus Heat game or a Pistons Lakers game from back in those days, in the playoffs.
Right.
But watching it throughout the course of an entire season, you're going to lose fans because that is not, it's not fun watching those drag it out. Charles Barkley backing somebody down for, 15 seconds of a shot clock and then getting a layup. Like, yeah, that might be considered good basketball, but that's not watchable Like, that's not what the fans want. And I think we're getting what the majority of people want. We're just seeing more idiots that think it's cool what was going on in the 80s and 90s,
Right, and it was for that time. Like you said, sports evolve and change over time. I mean, we certainly aren't watching the same football we were watching 20, 30, 40 years ago. We're not watching the same style of hockey we were watching 30 years ago. And basketball has changed, and everybody can argue about changes being better or worse. That's what makes, that's what, makes us, relevant. We can sit here and talk about this, and that's what gives people arguments and discussions to go ahead and, make their own opinions. But it's not, we're not saying one's better than the other or so forth. Like you said, it's all about what the fans want at that given time. If fans aren't happy with a certain product, then the leagues try to make changes so that it is something to watch and something that, they're trying to make us happy. I mean, we're the ones paying as fans to see these games on a nightly basis and watch them on TV and, buy all the memorabilia and the merchandise. So it is about us, at the end of the day, from all aspects. But like you said, it's just, that's not what All-Star Game's ever been about. I think, you look at the old NFL All-Star Game before it became the Pro Bowl. Those guys were playing for extra money.
Yeah.
Same thing, and so that's why you saw, rougher games for that, but then as that changed, as time grew on, these guys were playing, longer seasons and making good money during the regular season. So it didn't matter as much. And so like I said, it's just, I don't get people arguing about, the quality of an All-Star game. Like I said, I hardly watch them. Like I said, I watch more Saturday night than I did Sunday. I was out and about Sunday, as it always falls on Valentine's Day weekend. So, I mean, anybody, if you got, a significant other or whatever, or, friends or whatever they hang out with, yeah, the last thing you're going to, really be watching is, the NBA All-Star Game, unless you're that big of a fan. But still, it's not, it's just not the biggest priority in my opinion. I'd rather see, the leagues worry about changing things relevant in, day-by-day game operations. And that goes for hockey as well. They big deal about the 3-on-3 setup in the NHL, and that really didn't work as well as they thought because we had a couple of really defensive-minded teams or games, the sub games, mind you. The final was a 1-0 win. So we talk about all this extra offense we want to see in hockey, but the 3-on-3 competition really didn't make an improvement on that because these hockey players are better players defensively now than they were 20, 30 years ago. If you had a 3-on-3 tournament in the 80s when it was Gretzky and Lemieux and, Jagr, his career, I mean, who knows what kind of scores we would have seen. We'd probably seen, these guys score 25, 30 goals in one of these, subset games. But, the quality of hockey has improved at both ends of the ice. And same thing with basketball. Yes, these guys aren't playing defense, in this game, but they're still some of the better defenders. You got LeBron, you've got Kobe, Chris Paul. These guys are great defenders when they need to defend, but they don't need to defend for an All-Star game. It's not that big of a deal.
Right. The thing that I think that frustrates me most in the NBA is at All-Star Weekend is the phony reactions. To dunks in the dunk contest. Like, okay, this year the dunks in the dunk contest were fantastic, absolutely phenomenal. Mm-hmm. You can't argue there. But, most years, the mailed-in reactions where it's like, 3 guys in the front row are holding like 4 people back, and it's like, okay, Desmond Mason just did like a windmill that we've seen 4,000 times. Do we need that reaction and the cell phones and like all this stuff? Like, I'm all for having fun, but I'm not in for, you know, doing it for the camera and doing phony celebrations when there's no deserving for that. I don't even think I don't know if it's the NBA where they were like, hey, you guys who sit in the front row, these athletes, LeBron, so and so, Dwayne Wade, you guys have to act like you're having fun if you're going to sit in the front row. You have to be stars having fun in the front row. It just pisses me off, the phoniness, because you can tell how phony it is when they're doing those, celebrations. Like, they don't care.
I beg to differ with some of that. I really do believe that some of those guys are having a good time. A lot of the guys that sit in the front row for the dunk contest and so forth, and they got their kids out there. I don't know if that's a moment I saw. I thought that was really cool, and they kind of captured briefly was they did in between the 3-point and slam dunk contest. They had a mini hoop out there, and it was Chris Paul Jr., Carmelo Anthony's kid, and there was someone else, and they did like their version of the slam dunk contest, and everybody kind of, like, it's like I said, it's a fun family thing. Guys who don't get to see each other all the time, that are friends off the court, get to kind of hang out for a night or two. So I don't think it's as phony as it might seem. Yeah, it's a little exaggerated and whatnot, and just guys kind of goofing around, like you said, goofing around, having fun. But I do think they're really, I think the players do enjoy these weekends.
I think they do enjoy them, but you've got to admit the celebrations are phony. You got don't you think a lot of those celebrations are like, I get that they're having fun. Like, I think they're legitimately fun, where it's like, hey, I get to hang out with, even if you're LeBron James, you're like, man, I get to hang out with, Darko Milicic. Or no, you get to hang out with your buddy Carmelo Anthony, and you get to hang out with Dwayne, and you get to hang out with your buddies. You get to have a fun weekend of strip clubs and, all this good stuff. Mm-hmm. But, when they're at that event, I genuinely think they're having fun. It's the celebration. I think the celebrations are just, I've just seen too much of, over the years of where it's like, like I feel like Shaq back in the day was kind of that way. And, I don't know if I would be having, like, those would be the reactions I'm having. I just don't buy that those are honest to God reactions. Like, I feel like they're Alex Rodriguez, phony reactions. Like, I feel like those are the reactions Alex Rodriguez would have, and it would be completely disingenuous.
I mean, it's
and I love Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I don't know. I feel like for the most part, that I don't think it's as phony as you trying to pull it out to me. I wouldn't know for sure, but like I said, I really do think these guys are just having a blast, and it's the one time they can really kind of let loose, because they you don't see that from a lot of the players on a regular basis in during the season, when it's a lot more business-like.
Well, coming off of these All-Star breaks in hockey and basketball, and now that the NFL is officially over,
yeah.
Don't you feel like this is the perfect time to cash in? I'm sitting here on Bovada, and there's a 50% welcome bonus up to $250 on here. Mm-hmm. Don't you feel like this? And I've looked at a couple other websites with welcome bonuses. They're trying to get your asses in the seats on these websites.
Oh yeah.
And they need them now because nobody's betting a lot on anything that's not football. So isn't this the perfect time to go to Sports Memo, to axsmithsports.com to get some information and then cash in on these welcome bonuses?
Absolutely. That's the thing. This is the time of year where and this is the argument, we're coming up now where in New Jersey, we're going to have the sports betting legalization argument brought up back again in the courts, and we won't have an official ruling until they're saying around late spring or early summer. But it's either this passes or the next stop is the U.S. Supreme Court, which we know is a man short now. But
yes.
This is the time of year where around the nation, the casual bettors aren't really doing a lot, because like you said, football's the king sport when it comes to betting, and the weekend warriors have their Sundays, they go to the bars and put a few dollars in the game. But this is the time of year to really actually make some money. You might not watch a lot of basketball, you might not watch hockey at all, I know I've had a lot of clients who, they said, "Oh, I signed up with you, and you do well in hockey, and then now I've turned into a hockey fan." I've had several clients directly say that to me, that I didn't care about hockey until watching it and started winning, with plays. So yeah, calling someone like me over at Sports Memo, a good friend of mine, Ian Cameron's another guy who's been on a tremendous role in the NHL. And there's handicappers all over the country that are doing well in college and pro basketball and hockey right now. And it's just, this is a good time. If you're an investment gambler, this is a good time to, you can do your own homework with it too. I'm not discrediting that, but guys like myself, like Ian, guys like Teddy Covers, guys, I can run down the list of a lot of them. But like you said, these different sites, these guys we're all doing very well and cashing in, because this is our time to zone in on those numbers, those sports that the books aren't really, keeping that tight of an eye on. Obviously the NBA is going to get the highlight focus from the bookmakers offshore and in Vegas. And college basketball will pick up steam, especially next month with March Madness. But the NHL, I mean, I've been very successful at it for the simple reason of just the numbers are not as tight in the NHL as they are in any other sport. Even baseball, baseball gets more, because obviously that takes up the entire summer. So baseball gets a lot of focus right now as pitchers and catchers report within the next 6 to 7 days. So books are already putting up their over under, for the win totals, and I'm sure we'll talk about that next week as those numbers start to develop and open up. But hockey is the forgotten sport, not just amongst viewers, and obviously the networks. We're seeing ESPN talk a lot more about hockey now, because they're trying to expand their coverage, because they're losing viewers, frankly. I mean, it seems like for the years NBA and NFL were the only things that ESPN wanted to talk about on SportsCenter. But now that they're trying to change things around, they've got a little bit of competition with Fox Sports 1. So they're doing more hockey highlights. They're doing, college basketball, women's college hoops, and so forth. But as far as the gambling aspect goes, the hockey
no offense to women's sports, but that's not going to push the needle.
No, but just the expansion of it, they're not going to spend 20 minutes talking about LeBron every night and then talk about, the Patriots, what they're doing during the offseason, and then, follow up with a few highlights from 4 games in the NBA. So, they are they're giving it a bit of an effort to expand their coverage a little bit more. But from the betting aspect, books aren't paying that much attention to hockey. I'd say they're paying more attention to the numbers now than ever. And, I'm not going to sit here and take credit of that, because I, done well in it. But I have to, when I went out to Vegas in August, I did talk to a couple of bookmakers who, have said, we've noticed guys doing well in hockey over the years. It's not, the squares just walking up, putting $20 on games. They've got people coming in, putting significant figures on games, and beating them. So for bookmakers to acknowledge that they are seeing more and more action, while it's not huge, but that small step means they got to pay a little bit more attention to it. And but there's still an edge for us as gamblers and number crunchers. So it doesn't matter what you watch the sport on. I mean, you follow every company you put money into the stock market. So no, that was a good time to sign up with somebody. And like I said, a lot of books have specials, sign-up specials. Bovada, MyBookie.ag is another site. BetOnline, all 3 of those great sites. You can find sign-up specials and cash in.
What's the oddest thing you've seen odds for or lines for, not just NHL and NBA at this time of year? Have you seen anything for like a, what do you call it, like a, maybe a arena football futures or anything like that, or USHL or something like that? Have you seen any odds or point spreads for those at all? Gamblers are just hungry to do something.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of different sports that are like that. You've got, rugby, and you have NASCAR, but you'd be surprised. See, this is the thing, 10, 20 years ago, we'd say, yeah, this is, people paying attention, but they're just kind of throwing money around on it, no big deal. But there are people who have made a significant amount of money on these, lesser sports or entertainment sports. You mentioned arena football. I know a couple of guys who back in the day when arena football was kind of in its bigger days, when there were a lot more teams, when Kurt Warner was playing for the Iowa Barnstormers in that mid '90s time when they had ESPN2 coverage on a regular basis. There were guys who were making good money crunching those numbers and crunching those lines because the books didn't pay that much attention to it, and the sharp guys who were winning with that understood the pace of the game better than the books did. They understood, the shorter fields and the offenses, and because those were a lot of guys that were NFL castoffs or college, top college players that never got a look. So they were able to take their notes and kind of mash them up a little bit and get an edge on that. A lot of books actually stopped taking arena action, and then of course the league went bankrupt and reformed again. So you do see couple of offshore places that have arena football, for an example. But one of the things I think is really interesting, and I know a couple of guys who've made wagers on this, but there are people they're setting lines for what they call esports. You've got groups of video game, these video game contests and teams and whatnot. And they have these. I don't know all the different things about this. This whole league. I think it's like League of Legends is the league that they have, and they've been televising this a little bit more too. But these guys are playing video games, and people are actually wagering on these groups of video game players. Like I said, if you research anything enough and you can find an edge within the numbers, then by all means go. That's smart. If you can make a positive expectation wager on anything, it's a good bet. I don't know anything about this. I would never put a single cent on this myself. No. But if I were to get, like I said, it's all information based. If I find out, information that coincides with a number, that's in anything. It could be soccer, it could be, a dart match, it could be, whatever, golf. If you find it a positive expectation wager, it's not, just, flipping a coin. You have an actual edge, and you're making a smart business decision. So yeah, you can look around, and if you know people who, I know some people who made good money betting golf futures, knowing a guy going into a tournament. Obviously, you got boxing, you got a lot of UFC and mixed martial arts fans. I'm a fan of it myself. I've won money with boxing wagers, a few UFC wagers as well. So there's no bad bet if you research it, just because it's not the biggest sport on TV or it's not the feature presentation of the week. But if you can find an edge, it's worth a bet.
What's the going in to this, like the trade deadlines for the NBA, NHL? Isn't there's not really a trade deadline where it's really late in the season, isn't there?
There is. It is. It's actually this year. It's on Leap Day. It's on February 29th. The NHL, actually, believe it or not, the NHL has, I would say, one of the more exciting trade deadlines. It would be on par with probably Major League Baseball, in my opinion. NBA hasn't had a whole lot of big trades. I think that's going to change this year, but and the NFL trade deadline is pretty much non-existent almost. But
do you, okay? Well, what I was thinking was, do you have any advice for people when it comes to did you research the trade? Like, if say there's still obviously there's always futures bets on who's going to win the World Series or NBA Finals. If you're a Hawks fan or, whoever gets Dwight Howard.
Right.
And, how do you – obviously, whenever somebody when there's a big trade, Vegas is going to skew the odds.
Sure.
To try to tempt people, whether it be Cubs fans or Knicks fans or whatever it may be. What would your advice to these fans be come trade deadline with placing futures bets?
Well, all right, here's the thing.
Do it. Just don't.
No, I would say don't do it. Here's my thing is this: the best time to make futures odds or plays on future odds, obviously, right before the season starts, because that's when you're going to get the some of the sharpest numbers, or you'll be able to find some stale numbers that haven't moved. That obviously things become tighter as the season moves on. But with the trade deadline, I haven't yet to see a move in the last, let's say, 5 years where I went and jumped out and said, wow, you know what? This move right here was going to solidify the team to win a championship. A lot of teams that make big trades, usually have so many other things going on at the given time that they aren't the best team in the league. If you have to make a lot of changes in 3/4 of the way through the season, chances are you didn't have the best team lined up obviously to win, make a deep run in the postseason. And it takes time to gel with any team, any player, no matter how good they are. So to have, you look at the NHL deadline. All right, so it goes to March 1st. Well, now you got basically 6 weeks of hockey left to gel with this team before getting into the postseason race. That's not a lot of time, and if you don't gel right away, or now, pieces that you moved ended up being more valuable to your team than you thought, and now you start struggling. Then now you've created another issue. So, no, yeah, I'm not going to say don't go out and play make a futures wager based on a trade, but do not overreact to a move. And if you see a giant move on a team, odds are, if anything, if you see a book overreact to a team that's at the top of the futures market, and the books take the value away from them, let's say they make them a favorite where they were a 10-to-1 price, now they're at 5-to-1. That team that didn't have to make the moves, that dropped now from 6-to-1 to 8-to-1, might have a little bit more value.
And that's who Vegas is probably predicting to actually win.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay. So favorites, like for example, let's look at the NHL. Obviously, the odds-on favorites right now to win the Stanley Cup. Washington at 3-to-1 odds. I've seen the Hawks around 11-2. I've seen them as, all the way to 5-to-1. 5-to-1 is probably the best price I've seen on them. But those top teams, and those are two teams in particular that I doubt will make any trades. Those two teams are solid from top to bottom. Have a couple of minor injury issues at the time. You look at the Blackhawks losing Marian Hossa, the leg injury. That's a couple of weeks, and he's a guy who's been injured throughout the entire year. So this is more of a maintenance issue than anything else, to kind of try and give him some rest before the stretch run into the postseason. But those are teams that I don't need to make a whole lot of changes, and the books are reflecting that in their numbers. You got a team, say like the Florida Panthers, who came on strong and shocked everybody. They might try and make a move for another veteran piece. They've got a good blend of young guys and older guys on that team, but they might need an extra piece to help out with Jágr and Luongo, because those are the two older guys on that club. You don't want them to wear out into a deep playoff stretch, but these young guys might not have enough to carry through a deep stretch. So adding another veteran piece could be something the Florida Panthers might want to look at, for example. So those kind of teams in that middle range where they have a good core, but one more piece could push them over the top, those are the teams you look for. But if you see a team like, say, the Minnesota Wild, for example, who just made a coaching change, they fired Mike Yeo, brought in John Tortorella, John Torchetti is the guy they brought in, former Blackhawk assistant. They're a team that needs to make a lot of changes if they want to become a postseason team. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think they're on the right track to making a run next year. But those teams you want to stay away from if you think there's not a lot of value as you might see based on them making a trade or a move here or there.
Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here on the Box Seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of odds on the Oscars 2016, and also possibly, if I can find them, some different presidential primary odds out there, and then kind of discuss that a little bit here on the Box Seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan here on LateNightSportsRadio.com.
Maybe I could offer up
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the box seats here on latenightsportsradio.com. Back here with Alex B. Smith of axsmithsports.com, sportmemo.com, KellyInVegas.com, and Bob Sullivan here of Bob Sullivan Show. Alex, before we get into the Oscars, there's some... Actually, let's get into the Oscars first, then we'll get into the politics betting. But Oscars 2016, I'm glad that Leo's probably going to win his first Oscar, but I feel like this is he shouldn't get it for this one. Like I feel like he should have won it for maybe The Aviator. He probably should have won one for Inception. He probably should have won one for Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
He should have won one for The Departed. I mean, yep. Titanic. I mean, those are like 5 movies he should have won for. And The Revenant, great movie, but I don't feel like this was his absolute best. I feel like the Academy is giving him more props if they give it to him for less clocking. And I feel like he had, he delivered his lines well. He got raped by the bear pretty well. But it wasn't like, I just didn't feel like this was, his best role. And it was a great movie, but it just wasn't his best.
Yeah, we see this a lot in a lot of award shows. I think the most famous name and situation that comes to my mind was Susan Lucci, the former All My Children actress who had been snubbed from the soap opera awards for literally her entire career, and eventually as the show started to wind down, she finally ended up getting an award for Best Actress, I think the Daytime Emmys. And so I think we're seeing that here with Leo and the Oscars. This is kind of a culmination award. All the times that he's been snubbed, and now this is the one spot where they're just kind of, putting everything together and giving him this award as an overall achievement. But I didn't see The Revenant. I saw the previews for it. It just didn't seem like my kind of movie. But from what I've heard, like you said, I've heard it's a good movie, and I've heard the same sentiment that you said, that this was not his best work. And like I said, if you go back and look at some of the, like I said, the great films that he had, Wolf of Wall Street and The Departed, 2 of my favorite movies of all time, as far as modern day movies go. The Titanic, he did a great job in that as well. It's the movie that really put him on the map. And so so I think that, and that's why we're seeing such a high price. I mean, there's books that have him marked as from 7 to 1, a 1 to 7 favorite. So you had to lay $700 to win 100, to as high as maybe 30 to 1 as a favorite. So it's odds on he's going to win finally for an Oscar. And and looking at some of the other names on here, this list that I'm looking at. Yeah, and there's a lot of movies that I didn't catch, and I was actually stunned because one of my favorite movies of the year, and it just came out on DVD today, I was talking about it on Facebook, Black Mass, with Johnny Depp, where he's portraying the famous Boston mobster Whitey Bulger. Johnny Depp has had a lot of up and down roles, and he's a guy who's been had a long career, and he said that a lot of different things said about his career and so forth, and some of the roles that he's taken on, but this was a great role for him. He really portrayed that character very, very well, and I said after seeing that movie, I said he's got to be a shoo-in to win Best Actor. Like I said, obviously that's not the case here, and if you see the prices, on an award show wager, you never want to take a long shot. The high price payouts never cash. These everyone kind of has an idea of who's going to win what based on other award shows and so forth. So if you ever see anything that's worse, a higher payout than 5 to 1, chances are it's not going to win at all. So don't fool yourself. But I see the 40 to 1 price on that, and I won't play it because I know he's not going to win it. But it's just unfortunate you see there's so many great roles, and you just see people just get looked over for one reason or another.
Well, and I think a lot of the thing, it's weird. It's kind of like, all-star voting. Well, actually, it's a lot like all-star voting or MVP voting or whatever it is. There's all these idiots that are considered smart in their profession, but they're goddamn idiots. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But, you look at it, it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to vote for Ken Griffey Jr. first ballot because he's going to get the votes anyway. And it's like, okay, if he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You vote for him either way. Or these people where it's like, oh, well, if Leonardo DiCaprio can do it once, he can do it again and make another great film. Like, I think they got to, like, once they saw what happened to, like, and I understand, when they saw what happened with Nicolas Cage where he just kind of cashed out, they're like, okay, well, we can't make that same mistake again where these people are just going to, like, they want more Daniel Day-Lewis's than they want Nicolas Cage's, where every movie the guy makes is competing for an Academy Award. And I completely understand that. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, Martin Scorsese, look at his list of movies. Look at, Quentin Tarantino. Like, it took those guys a long-ass time to win. And when they did win, it wasn't for movies that really, where you're like, like Scorsese has movie after movie after movie where it's just like, man, he should have won Academy Awards, but Steven Spielberg's more kind of the Academy really loves him. And Steven Spielberg's kind of like the, I don't know, like the Derek, well, maybe not Derek Jeter because he didn't win MVPs, but it would be like, I don't know, if LeBron won or like Steve Nash winning back-to-back or something where it's like, okay, that's the fan-friendly pick. It's a safe pick when they do something like that. And, I just feel like these like Leo should have won numerous. He should have multiple best actor. Even look at what he did. The movie with Tom Hanks that he did, Catch Me If You Can. That was a fantastic movie. Mm-hmm. But like this year, Best Picture, The Revenant is probably going to win. The Big Short was a good movie. I just watched Mad Max the other night. I wasn't all that impressed. I'm still confused as to how this is in the running for an Oscar. Bridge of Spies I thought was fantastic. The Martian was good. And then I look at these best actors, and I get why Matt Damon is so low, because DiCaprio deserves an Oscar for something at this point. And these other ones, Eddie Redmayne from The Danish Girl, I don't know what the hell that is. Oh. And Bryan Cranston from Trumbo, which I did not see, but Cranston deserves some, obviously he probably did a great job in it. But Damon being so low, I think it's just like, well, he did a really good job, but he's going to have another chance. So I'm just saying these Oscar odds, whatever's the favorite is probably going to win on these odds.
Sure. And the thing with Oscar voting, with any award show voting, and I could go into a bit of a rant with last night with the Grammys.
About Taylor Swift?
About Taylor Swift winning best album of the year. But what I'm going to say, I'm not going to go into the full rant of it. But here's the thing is this.
I'm going to argue with you on it though, because I saw your post and I wanted to go off on a tangent. But I'll let you finish here.
All right. Well, I'll start with, but here, just in general with award shows. Like I said, the fans and the critics have completely different views on films. Has been for a very long time. And I feel like the fan critics are closer with music and television than they are with movies. Like I said, there's a lot of movies that kind of sneak in that weren't even big in theaters. Yeah. That, like I said, like The Danish Girl and some of these. There's a lot of other films. Like I said, Trumbo, Room was another movie I had never really heard of, but now Brie Larson is pretty much shooing to win Best Actress. And Lenny Abramson was the director of that. He's kind of a far out pick for Best Director, but going into that, like I said, what we see and what we hear about all the time is not always what the critics really love and rave about. And so we go last night.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. Go ahead.
We go into last night. So you had for the Grammys. Looking back, Taylor Swift's 1989 wins Album of the Year, and that was the favorite. It was a 3-1 favorite to win, and it beat out two albums that I thought were absolutely fantastic. Probably two of the better albums in my opinion, not just of the year, but albums that I think will kind of last around for quite a while. That was Kendrick Lamar's "To Pimp a Butterfly" and The Weeknd's "Beauty Behind the Madness." Now, granted, album of the year is a tough thing to nail down because you have so many different sounds and genres. You had Taylor Swift, who was a pop artist, Kendrick Lamar, classic, West Coast hip hop. Alabama Shakes in there, kind of that, Southern rock sound. Chris Stapleton.
I love the Shakes, the Alabama Shakes.
Mm-hmm. Chris Stapleton had a great album with Traveler. It was a great country album, and The Weeknd kind of that in between cross through pop and hip hop and even electronic and dance. So it's hard to nail that down. I just personally did not think, and I liked the album 1989. Like, people were jumping all over me today. I thought it was a great album. I did not think that was the best album that came out all year.
But you got to think, Taylor. Okay, of those people. Don't you feel like Taylor Swift most reinvented herself on this album? Obviously, a lot of these people, if they reinvent themselves and try to make a new album and whatnot, it doesn't work because they're not, they're not the hottest white chick on the planet. Well, actually, Taylor Swift is not that, but she's one of the hottest in music. But right. She's, the kind of everybody wants to have sex with her. To put it delicately, as I could put it, but you look at her and it's like, she went from and a lot of the things I was seeing was like, she just sings songs about, not from you, but she just sings songs about her ex-boyfriends and stuff, and that really wasn't what this new album was about. She reinvented herself, and this new album was about reinventing herself, which was. Kind of the "Shake It Off" was a great song. "Blank Space" was a good song. "Bad Blood," which was one of the best music videos of the year, in my opinion, was great. And I'm really sounding really kind of effeminate here by talking about my love for Taylor Swift's 1989 album, but it was a really, really good album, and she reinvented herself in the process. Like, she did something where it was like, hey. All these people were questioning what she could do. And she's like, hey, I can go out and make this album, and I can kind of do even more of a crossover than what I'm already doing and be successful at it and be good at it. And she did that. Like, she was like, those songs were good songs. Like, I'm singing those songs. I'm making Snapchats of me singing those songs. Most of them are kind of mocking, the pop genre, but it's Taylor Swift. I mean, she's been successful for 6 or 7 years. This is the best album she's put out, in my opinion, because it showed that she has musical range, not just kind of a country pop type of thing, where she's just all the country people are like, well, she's not really country because she's got a little pop to her. And then
the pop people say she's too
not
country.
Really pop because she's got country to her. So she's just like, okay, I'm going to go out, I'm going to drop my guitar, and I'm going to just go do this. And I feel like she rocked it. I feel like she deserved Album of the Year for that.
But I mean, that's kind of what it's the same sentiment of her last album, Red. Like, that was really, I thought that was the official kind of changeover. Yes, this was 1989 was a better album than Red, but I feel like that's why Red won. She's won before with that album. That album cleaned up, for many awards because of that. So to give her, kind of this, if that's the sentiment that she won the award on, I'm not really buying it a whole lot because of the fact that they kind of really, all right, well then how did she win the first time? What did people really think that album was the best album of the year? And I can't remember what Red went up against when it won. So, and I understand that, and I completely do agree with you on that. She has, made herself into a legitimate pop star. There's no, like I said, the crossover argument can be dropped now because she's proven that she's a talented artist and can do either style. I just didn't think that of the albums that were on the list, I did not think that was enough to win Album of the Year, in my opinion. Yeah. And like I said, it's my personal opinion and so forth. And I get that she's a lot more fan friendly than either Kendrick Lamar or The Weeknd. And that goes not just. I mean, that's styles. Obviously, if you listen to Pimp a Butterfly. It's a powerful album. It's not your just standard club. It's not club hip hop by any means. It's not an album that you're gonna, bang in your car when you're going out, bar hopping. It was more, he was really deep into himself and talked about a lot of different things, crime and, depression. And he really opened up in this album. There was something special to that. And so I get where that wouldn't have won Album of the Year. And I get with The Weeknd too. I actually, if I had to have made a wager, I would have bet on Beauty Behind the Madness to win, because that album touched on a lot of just different things, but it was just a fun and lighthearted album, where a lot of The Weeknd's earlier stuff was very dark, had a lot of different overtones with, parties and drugs and so forth. So stuff that's not certainly not radio friendly, let alone family friendly. But this album kind of opened him up in a way to, being more of a wide, superstar, not just dancey or not just, kind of like underground hip hop. He blended a lot of things together and made it pop friendly. So I really thought that was the one shot that would have gotten him Album of the Year for sure.
I think it's funny that the most heated debate we've kind of gotten into on this show.
Yeah.
But ironically, Kendrick Lamar did, comboed with Taylor on Bad Blood.
And Bad Blood,
so,
yeah.
He has nobody to blame but himself for losing Album of the Year.
And he won 5 awards. I mean, let's not, that's the thing. That's not cut him short and say that, he went home empty-handed like he did the year before.
He's not a huge loser.
No, he cleaned up. He's going to win more awards before his career is said and done. That you can definitely take to the bank. But yeah, it's just like I said, the award shows. Never been a fan of betting on them because, like you said, the high chalk prices. It's funny, and I didn't really look at the Grammy odds until after the awards were over. One of the plays that I would have made, kind of a fan play because I am a huge fan of hers, but the price was actually pretty legit. Was Meghan Trainor to win Best New Artist? It only went up to about $1.25, but now looking back previously, I think she was actually even money at one point. To win that, and she was up with some good competition too. James Bay and Sam Hunt, the tremendous country artist, but she won that easily and had a it was kind of emotional as she kind of broke down when she realized she won and didn't really say much because she was just crying the whole time. But I thought that was a great moment. She doesn't have the best songs. I think she's outstandingly attractive, but she's got good talent and she's a likable artist, and she's been a big songwriter for a few years that kind of went and stepped in front now and made something of herself. So it was nice to see her win New Artist.
Well, let me just say this before we get into the politics bets, our best bets, but Meghan Trainor, your lips are moving. That's a good song.
Yep.
All about that bass. Those are two. Like, is she the best song? Well, she probably doesn't write her songs. I can't confirm or deny that. No research available from me on that. But
no, she does. She's written hits for a lot of other people as well. But no, these are songs that she had a firm hand in writing. So
okay, so she wrote her songs. Are they like Born to Run or anything like that? No, but they're catchy tunes. They're entertaining, and I think that's what people like. That's what we that's. Unfortunately, that's what the music industry is right now. Is what's entertaining and what's what's catching our attention. And she caught our attention this year, and I feel like that would have been a good bet to lay down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so politics here. Not that we're not going to give our affiliations or anything like that, but there are some bets out there on next president of the United States. The Republican presidential nominee. Right now, I feel like I think there should be a third one on the Democratic presidential nominee. Right now, it's Hillary Clinton at minus 400, Bernie Sanders at 250, and I feel like there should be a long shot of Joe Biden. What do you think of that?
I don't know. We haven't heard a whole lot of, kind of talk. There's been, the rumor mill rolling with Biden tossing his hat into the race before. But if you look at, I've been seeing the ads online or online and on cable in the last couple of days, and it's been a lot of heavy movement here in Minnesota with Bernie Sanders. I know he had he did a rally up here about a month ago and so forth, and so he's on the move, and a lot of younger people are really getting behind him. So, and obviously Hillary's, got a lot of steam going as well. So I think those are the two, as far as putting a big number up, those are the two to really kind of get behind. But I think there's decent value on Bernie Sanders at plus 250 to win the nomination. We've heard a lot of negative things with Hillary during the whole campaign with, her emails and, it's just they're digging up a lot of dirt on Hillary as much as they can find, but there's not a whole lot of dirt on Bernie Sanders. And Hillary, obviously, her affiliation with her husband, Bill, everybody's always kind of questioned whether that would come into play. And, he's been on the campaign trail hard as well. So, 4-1 odds as a favorite makes sense, but I wouldn't count Bernie Sanders out, especially if he can take care of these next couple of you got the Nevada and the South Carolina caucuses coming up. If he can squeak out a win in one of those two, then plus 250, that seems to be a live wager to at least for him to take the Democratic name.
Well, a friend of mine who he gets me to go to the Democratic party every year. I'm not Democratic. I'm really in the middle, but
okay.
I go to the Democratic Party to have a few cocktails, meet a mayor or two, and just kind of, schmooze around. But
sure,
it's a good time. It's free beer, it's free, food, it's everything. But my buddy thinks that there is a 50-50 chance that Hillary gets actually indicted, which I'm not like. Just reading from the outside and not really having an interest in it, I would have thought it would have been, less than 5% that she gets indicted or anything. And when he said 50-50, I was like, oh. Well. And that makes me more inclined to place money on Bernie Sanders to win the Democratic presidential nominee.
Sure.
And I don't know if Vegas is skewing it or what they're doing, but my opinion, yeah, Bernie Sanders is a good value at 250. Looking at the overall presidential, who's going to be the next president of the United States, are you surprised? Do you think they're skewing it for Trump right now at plus 2, being the second favorite behind Hillary? Or do you think that I actually, looking at like a Michael Bloomberg, I wouldn't take him to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I would take him, I wouldn't be opposed to taking him in the Republican.
Is he running as a Republican, or is he going to be? I thought he's running kind of as a third party.
I think he'll run. Well, he'll probably have to run as a third party, coming in so late in the game. But I think plus 2,500. That's not a bad value. The only, looking at him. The Republican Party is going to be in such an upheaval. They might go to the convention with no candidate ready, and they're going to have to vote. And it's going to be like what we saw in Boardwalk Empire during the Herbert Hoover administration.
That's possible. I don't think it'll be of that ilk.
Yeah.
The thing is this: with Trump, they have to skew the numbers because there's a lot of books offshore, and you got to make that clear that you can't bet on this. Through any book in Nevada, you can only wager on these offshore. But Donald Trump opened at like a 30-1 underdog at some books. So if they took even $200 worth of action, and now we saw how much steam that he got all through the last several months, they had to drop that price down to where it is now. So even if he's not the true favorite, which that's still out to be seen, like you said, because Rubio and Ted Cruz are still kind of getting closer and closer behind. But they had to. There was a lot of liability that some of these offshore books had with Trump because a lot of people just didn't really take it seriously when he said he was throwing his name into the race, and then when he proved people wrong that he's for real about this, about wanting to become a president, then the books had to we gotta treat this as seriously as he is now. So that's where you're seeing that skewed price, and you can't. I think Trump will be the Republican presidential nominee? I do. I can't wager on it because I know there was a better price out. I do. I have a feeling he will be. But I can't wager on it when it was 30-1 and now it's 3-1. Just knowing that I lost that value is not it's a no bet for me on that merit.
Well, Alex, before we get out of here, okay, best bet for this week, Oscars or politics? Is there really any best bet to give out right now? Because I don't feel like
if you can find a price for the Golden State Warriors, they break the Chicago Bulls record of 73 wins. You're not going to find any value like you would have at the beginning of the year, but it's worth throwing a few bucks on yes, because it doesn't seem like this team's going to lose 6 games over the next. I think they have 30 games left. Yeah, it's easy for them to win another 25 games. The only caveat would be if someone gets hurt, like Curry or Draymond Green or Klay Thompson, and if they're worn out and they decide to rest the players because they're going to win the division probably in the next 10 games. They're probably going to win the conference in the next 15 or 20, depending on what the Spurs do. They might rest guys late, but this has been such a big talk all year. I can't see where they're going to do that. They're going to want to try to get this record. So I'd say a yes wager on that if you can find it at a price minus 150 or cheaper. That'd be my best bet for the week.
I wish I'm going to start searching for it tonight, but I like where you're thinking. They do have a few more games against the Spurs and Thunder and whatnot. Like they haven't they still have a few games against those guys. But my thing, going into when they had like 24-0 start or whatever, was I want to see them win 90 games with playoffs included. So they have to win 16 in the playoffs. But wait, is that even? Yeah, 90 games. Okay, so they have to win 76 in the regular, 74 in the regular season, and 16 in the playoffs. So if you can, there's probably not a bet out there, but I wish if there is a bet out there that you can find on any site, anything, take it for them to win 90 games, which would be 74 and then 16 wins in the playoffs.
Do you think they go undefeated? Now, this would be an interesting prop that we could see. Do you think they go undefeated in the playoffs? Oh,
no,
okay.
Not a shot. I think they struggled with a Memphis in the playoffs last year. Granted, it wasn't the same team. They didn't have that mojo that they do this year, but they got down 2-1 against the Grizzlies. I think there's going to be times where they'll struggle against if they say they face the Clippers in the second round. That's a rivalry series. I think that they could not. They're not going to lose that series, but I think they'll lose a game, maybe 2. And then the Spurs or the Thunder could sneak out a game against them, and the Cavs could sneak out a game against them. I think they'll lose. I think there's better odds that they lose more games in the playoffs combined than they lose in the regular season.
Okay.
It sounds stupid to say that, in a 20-game playoff or whatever, to lose that many games, but that's my theory, is that there's better odds that they'll lose more games in the playoffs than they will in the regular season. So,
okay.
All right, Alex, before we get out of here,
you
want to tell everybody where are you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at AXSmithSports. I'll be tweeting a lot more now because there's hockey every night, and like I said, we're getting back with basketball. You can find my plays at axsmithsports.com. I'm going to have a special sale up, probably coming up in the next couple of days, with a discount for the rest of the season, hockey and hoops. You can also find me at sportsmemo.com, kellyanvegas.com, vegasinsider.com, and at blanketparkolasports.com. Bob, what do you have going on for your shows coming up this week?
Thursday, Johnny Mallore's show. He might be having somebody else that doesn't like me anymore on the show. I don't know who that is, but he might be having another guest that doesn't like me. And then Sunday, well, tomorrow I'm going to be recording we're going to see how long it goes, but me and Jabari Davis are going to be recording a lengthy interview about NBA, second half of the season. So however long that goes will determine how long our show will be on Sunday, and if I need a second guest on Sunday. So that's where I'm at for my show. Actually, Brian Keating from KOCO will be joining me. But, so those two probably will be the guests for Sunday here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. And Alex, do you have any advice for betting rugby or any crazy sports?
Find someone who really knows something about that sport and ask them before you make any wagers. Don't go blindly into a sport that you may or may not follow throughout the year.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, that'll do it for the boxing here. Looking up, it will be the whole 1005 podcast here on LateNightSportsRadio.com with Brandy Wagner and Robbie Suter, and they will be talking some wrestling, or as the crazies call it, wrestling. Good night, folks.